I want to create a community and a conversation where, as a mom, you feel safe saying, this is hard and I don't always like it, without worrying someone's going to think that you're not a good mom. I know you're an amazing mom.
Hey, I'm Brooke Jean, therapist, recovering perfectionist, and struggling working mom on a mission to normalize normal. If you're an overwhelmed, high-achieving, and secretly anxious mama, struggling to balance it all and on the brink of burnout, you are in the right place. Here is where we talk about hard things like balancing work and family life, mental health, and how to navigate life-altering transitions. Nothing is too taboo here. In my conversations, I'll teach you how to let go of who you think you're supposed to be in order to create the life you've always wanted. Get ready to embrace your messy, shed the shoulds, and find freedom through a life unperfected. This is the Unperfected Pod.
Welcome, my friends, to the Unperfected Pod. I am so flippin' excited to be here with you today in this way, spilling and speaking the truth about what it means to be a mom and how to navigate all of our messiest moments. This podcast has been a dream in the making and a labor of love for quite some time, and I am just so excited to be launching it out into the world. I hope you're here to feel less alone, to laugh out loud at the ridiculousness that is mom life, to learn real tips and tricks for your mental and emotional well-being, and to ditch perfectionism, to normalize normal, and to lower the bar. This podcast will be a blend of storytelling, skill teaching, and supportive guest interviews to help you let go of who you think you're supposed to be in order to create the life you've always wanted. And before we dig in, I thought it was important to get on and share a little bit about my why. Share my story with you guys. Why is it that I'm so passionate about mommy's mental health? So I'm a little nervous, but here goes. I think I'm going to start in the beginning with where my unperfected path really started to begin, which was in college for me. My senior year in college, I unexpectedly got pregnant with my firstborn, my son Camden, who is now 19 years old. And whoopsies, that was certainly not part of the family plan. But boy, oh boy, did he save my life and get me on the straight and narrow. But it was during this time that I thought, okay, I definitely need to get my shit together. I need to get an internship. I need to get a stable, steady career that I can grow in, that offers benefits, because I knew pretty quickly in my pregnancy that I was going to be a single mom and that I was going to be primarily financially supporting this kiddo. And so I went to the career fair for the very first time. And the most bubbly, happy people in red and khaki were there and talking to me all about retail management and leadership and this fabulous internship and leadership program that they had offered. So while I was still in college, I worked as an intern for this retail organization while also working at a local Mexican restaurant and finishing up my degree. And I had an HR job lined up in a store before I had even graduated. So here I am, 22 years old, starting my corporate career as a single mom. And boy, did I want to do it all right. I had an idea in my head of what made the perfect leader, the perfect HR, the perfect mom, the perfect woman, the perfect body. And if you've worked in corporate America, you know that the opportunity there can be a recipe for disaster for a perfectionist or somebody whose trauma response is overachieving. But I have to say that this opportunity, being a leader for a retail organization, taught me a ton. I grew quickly. I was afforded opportunities that stretched me beyond my wildest imagination. And I just kept getting promoted and given more responsibility. And I just started climbing that corporate ladder, all while trying to behave like a perfect stay-at-home mom. So even though I was exhausted, bone tired, actually, working my ass off in a store, I spent every Wednesday, which was my one consistent day off, in my son's classroom volunteering. I had him signed up for sports and music and skateboarding and never missed a practice. We always went all out for Halloween and Christmas and all of the holidays that we celebrated. And I did my best to be really present. But here's the thing, giving to all these areas in my life really had me burning the candle at both ends. And I did this, guys, for a decade. I climbed the corporate ladder. I did HR first, then I did a group level HR training and development position. I was a GM running my own store by the time I was 26. And then I'd gotten promoted to a larger volume, more challenging store. And it was in 2012 when I was running this really challenging store. I'd been doing this for a decade. I had missed 10 Thanksgivings with my son because Black Friday was such a thing, that the horrific and tragic Aurora Theater shooting happened, which was right across the street from my store. And I had gotten a call at 3 a.m. that morning from my logistics manager, who let me know that this trauma had occurred and that half of our logistics team was in the theater that night and unaccounted for. And guys, you can only imagine how scary and traumatic this time was for my team, for our community. And so I did what any great leader would do, and I got my Fanny down to the store, and I just spent the next 72 hours holding my team, holding space, taking action to find our team members, keeping everybody calm, starting to grieve as news started to come through. And before I knew it, team members were coming in to grieve in my office, and their families started coming in. And what unfolded in the next few months was nothing short of a community crisis that also was a beautiful example of a community coming together so strong, stronger than I'd ever seen before. And it wasn't until many months later that I married the love of my life. We went on our honeymoon to Maui, and I relaxed on a beach for 10 days. And this was really the first time my nervous system had calmed in a decade. And it was on my honeymoon that my early childhood trauma memories started to come flooding in. So the trauma of the Aurora Theater shooting unlocked my own trauma, even though my trauma had nothing to do with shootings or mass shootings. And I began to panic. I had not remembered any of these things up until this point, and it was on this supposed to be vacation. And don't get me wrong, there were so many beautiful moments that I realized I had been escaping myself, escaping my trauma, and covering it up with success and achievements. And that I had done up to this point everything that a quote good girl was supposed to do. And it was costing me my time, my energy, and my sanity. Because here's the real scoop, friends. And you may find yourself in my story. From the outside, it may have looked at that time like I had it all. I had this amazing, steady, stable career. I was known as the development queen and was very involved in many leaders' development. And I, made the big paycheck and the big bonuses, and I bought the house at a young age and had the partner and the kiddo and the cars and the vacations and all the things. But behind closed doors, I was really suffering to keep it all together. And to cope with the pressure and the pain, I was overeating, over drinking, overspending, over consuming, just wrecking myself every night to get shitty sleep and wake the next day and do it all over again. This was no way to live life. I feel like until I understood that I had trauma, I was slowly punishing myself. And so I made the really scary decision to leave that steady corporate career. Can you imagine, for my poor husband? We've been together 8 years. We finally tie the knot. And then on our honeymoon, I announced, well, I think I'm going to leave my job, babe. Poor guy. He stuck around. So I left my corporate gig because I knew I needed to get right with myself. And I took 6 months off to heal, to shed the corporate skin, to be in therapy, to do yoga, to remember who the fuck I was underneath who I'd become based on what the world told me was right. And then I decided that what had happened in that community crisis in my store had really brought me to my calling, which was to be a therapist or a helping professional on a much deeper level than what I was doing in retail management. You see, I was effective in retail management because I was great with people. I really, truly care about people. I'm fascinated by human growth and development and why we are the way we are. I love seeing the best in others when they don't even see it in themselves and helping coach and guide them to their own potential. I loved providing a space where some of these kids, they could get away from their rough homes and their rough upbringings and come belong somewhere and be successful somewhere and have an opportunity somewhere. But I wasn't passionate about stocking the shelves with toilet paper, y'all. I just gave a shit about the people. And so many times, really hard things in our lives, really challenging disturbances or traumas or transitions often kickstart the most badass transformations for our lives. And this all happened in 2012 and when I was 33 years old. And when I started researching and looking into transitions, turns out that's a year that this happens to a lot of folks. Or we wake up one day and go, what the fuck am I doing? And who am I? And is this truly the life that I've wanted? And some of us are too scared to do anything about it. And we have real reasons to keep us stuck. But this podcast is going to help guide your transition if that's where you are. So I decide I want to be a therapist. I get into a graduate program for counseling psychology. And for any of you therapists that are listening, you all know getting your graduate degree in therapy or in counseling or psychology is basically 3.5, 4 years of intensive therapy for you. Holy buckets. But I did it and I fell more and more in love with it. And 2 days after I graduated, I launched my private practice, my business, where I knew I wanted to offer therapy and coaching and some consultation. And in the last 7 years, have been growing and expanding and becoming more and more passionate about supporting moms. Because not only did I want to grow a business, I decided that I wanted to grow my family. And I was so sick of this narrative that as a woman, you had to choose one, family or career. So I was bound and determined to prove, fuck that. I'm going to grow a business and my family at the same time. Watch me. So 5 years ago, we brought our daughter, Chloe, into the world. And now I have 2 kiddos, right? They're 14 or 15 years apart. So there's a big age gap, but our family is now complete. And we've grown our family at the same time as I've grown my business. But with my daughter, I got hit really hard with postpartum depression and anxiety. And it was that transition that I started getting really curious about mommy's mental health and just the lack of resources and the lack of talking about it. And then I started to notice this parallel that us as modern moms, we have just been taking on more and more and more responsibility for as long as mothers have been around. We don't just have the babies and take care of the kids and the house and the cooking and the cleaning. Now we bring home the bacon. And many of us have businesses or are in leadership roles or maybe even are the breadwinners. But we're still expected to be in the classroom and to support our communities and to be on that board. And oh, don't worry, also have a size 4 figure. We have continued to take on more and more and more, and nothing has come off of our plate. The modern mom is doing too much, the pressure is too high, and it's making us sick. Because with that rise in expectation of the modern mom, there's a parallel of a rise in her mental health conditions. So we are sicker than we've ever been. We are drinking more than we've ever drank. We have more depression and anxiety, more PTSD, higher suicide rates. And so guys, something's got to give. Something's got to give. And here's what really gets me. We have been conditioned to believe that we should be able to do it all and to do it all with grace and gratitude. We all have an image in our head of what a good enough mother is, right? Good moms are present and patient and energetic and active and nurturing. We all have an idea of what a perfect mother looks like, and we're trying subconsciously to reach that. And then you layer in the influx of information that the internet provides that's telling us, here's 10 more steps you need to be taking to be mindful of your child and parenting them and their mental and emotional well-being and their learning needs and their behavior things. And now we're expected to come up with sensory play and to bake things gluten-free, dairy-free, soy-free, and to send our kids to lunch with bento box, Pinterest-worthy lunches. And on top of it, we have social media blasting everybody's highlights, showcasing moms that are doing it and loving it. And if you're like me, you're in your closet in the fetal position, bawling your eyes out with a bottle of wine and a plate of brie cheese going, what the fuck is wrong with me? I can't do all of these things, and I'm certainly not happy about them. I'm certainly not grateful for it. Do I love my kids? You're damn right I do. Am I happy being a mother? Am I glad that I became a mother? Yes, it is my favorite and most important job. But can I keep up? No. We used to have to keep up with the Joneses, and now we have to keep up with the Kardashians. And in trying to achieve this ever elusive perfectionism, the perfect body, the perfect parenting, the perfect marriage, the perfect leadership, we are just drowning in feelings of not enoughness, drowning in depressive episodes and anxiety attacks and shame spirals and mom guilt and, the resentment. So, mama, you might be like me where it looks like you have it all, but deeply you're unhappy and you feel guilt about that. And I want to call that out and normalize that. It is normal to question why we did all of this in the first place. It is normal to fantasize about leaving your family in the middle of the night, going to Mexico, changing your name, and never coming back. Can you tell that I've really thought that one through? It is normal to love your kiddos like heart bursting 1 minute and then literally look at them and be like, you are an asshole the next. It is normal to be at war with your body. Unfortunately, 96% of us are at war with our own bodies. And so here's the thing, my loves. All this energy that we're putting into trying to be the perfect mother, to have the perfect body, to have the perfect marriage, to be the perfect boss, we need to start investing some of that back into ourselves. Because what I think the world needs more than ever is our mother, divine, feminine energy and leadership. When I think about what we could come up with when we invested in our own healing and when we brought community together to collaborate, to problem solve, to create solutions, when I think about what we're capable of when we stop investing all of us into everyone else and start pouring into ourselves, holy shit, mamas, I get goosebumps. Because I know that you dance around your counterparts that aren't juggling work and motherhood. I know that you can get an 8-hour day done in 4 hours if you're uninterrupted. I know that your heart is in the game. I know that your intentions are pure, but we are just bleeding incessantly into areas that aren't serving us or our families or our communities. So I'm here to call that out. I'm here to speak the truth about that. And we are going to stop making ourselves sick keeping up. We are going to shed the shoulds. We are going to claim space for ourselves and our well-being and the things that actually light us up. I'm going to guide you to do this stuff, guys. We're going to heal. We're going to normalize freaking normal so we can remove the shame. I want to create a community and a conversation where, as a mom, you feel safe saying, this is hard. And I don't always like it, without worrying someone's going to think that you're not a good mom. I know you're an amazing mom. So that's a little bit, friends, why I'm passionate about mommy's mental health. I myself made myself sick trying to keep up. And once I finally stopped living the life I thought I was supposed to live and invested in me and my health and my well-being and my purpose and my calling, I created a completely different life. And while today isn't perfect, I still suffer with depression and ups and downs and tons of energy one day and none the next. And I'm going to share all those messy mama moments on the show. And I'm going to give you tips on how to navigate. I'm going to bring experts on to help us with mom brain and depression and anxiety and transition and all the things. I can say that I have created a life that I want to actually participate in and that I am proud of. And it's a lot easier for me to wake up and do this thing called life because of it. And so I hope that you will join me in this movement of taking the pressure off mom, lowering the bar, normalizing normal, laughing at the freaking ridiculousness of it all. And I hope that in this process, you can reconnect to who you authentically are underneath who the world told you you're supposed to be. Because that's where your essence, where your gifts, where your gems lie. And honey, we need those more than ever right now. So some of these shows will be heavy and some will be really light. Some will be just a weekly quickie with a quick anxiety tip. And some will be me interviewing a mom who got through her own suffering and is on the other side or is still in it. But I would love to have you as part of the conversation. So I've started a private Facebook group called Mommy's Mental Health Matters. I hope you will join me there, where we will take the conversation from the podcast to that space and continue the conversation. I want to hear from you what topics you're curious about. What are you currently struggling with so I can address and acknowledge those on the show? But most importantly, guys, I am just excited to have this outlet to express myself. This is going to be healing and therapeutic for me too. I am a type of person that likes to express through dance and singing. I'm terrible at it, but dance and singing and writing and speaking. And so this is just going to be a really fun outlet for me to process this messy world that we live in. So if you made it to this end, thank you so much for being here. It's going to be a wild ride. I hope this serves you in such meaningful ways. And I will see you all next week. Take care, friends. Thank you so much for listening to the Unperfected Pod. I hope this episode helped you feel a little less alone and a little more inspired to be you. If you like what we're doing here, I would so appreciate that you subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. If you do, share the episode on Instagram and tag me at Brooke Jean Unperfected to enter to win a 1-to-1 laser coaching session. Also, feel free to join me in my private Facebook community, Mommy's Mental Health Matters, where we continue the conversation. Thanks again for being here and see you in next week's episode.